Hey everybody, and welcome back. This is Derek once again, author webmaster of Gematrinator.com, the website that I like to think anyway is helping expose the tyranny and the numerical obsession of the global elite and all of their operations, mainstream news, professional sports, movies, film, television, all done by a numerical code, the language of Gematria, a word which technically isn't even accepted in English. Microsoft Word tells me I misspelled it every time I type out the word, but what it really is the ancient practice of coding numbers into words, and it's being used to script out everything we see on television. And when I say everything, I don't really think that's an exaggeration. Really, everything you see coming out of the idiot box is by this code. So today I'm going to talk about the staged feminism ritual that was the Pussy Riot, which is a feminist protest punk rock band out of Russia. And these women show up in, all over the place. I didn't really read a whole lot about them. I've definitely heard about them before, but they've spent time in jail, allegedly, for various protests that they've made against sexism and promoting feminism and equal rights. And this is, of course, all in the midst of the whole Me Too movement. The movement that's taken down a wide array of celebrities, actors, musicians, CEOs even. All these women now coming out of the woodwork claiming that they were sexually abused, or even for guys who are just saying the wrong things. And, of course, I'm all for respect for women, but, things are a little out of hand, and this whole thing is being pushed onto us. Equal rights for women is great, and they should be able to do anything men can, pretty much. But the way it's being pushed onto us is definitely wrong. So let's get into this story, and I want to explain what I'm talking about. Now, in this language of Gematria, perhaps the most significant cipher is Jewish Gematria, also known as Latin Gematria, based on the order. You'll notice the letters that were added later in the English language are at the end of this cipher. And this is very, very significant. Using this method, the word feminism equals 219. And 219 is a special number for a variety of reasons, but I'm not going to get too deep into it. What I just want to point out about the World Cup final is how this measures up to a very special date for feminism. So we saw how it sums to 219 in the language of Gematria. Now think about the date, 2/19/2019. You have 219/219, just like how feminism equals 219. Well, if you measure from the date of the World Cup final to February 19th, 2019, it's exactly 219 days, right? So you end up with this really interesting alignment to this date, just 219s everywhere. And I want you to take a second to look at the photo here on the left of the screen. Put yourself in the player's shoes, right? You're in the most important game of your life, the World Cup final, trying to bring a trophy back to your country for the first time since before you were even born, which is the case of Kylian Mbappe, number 10 here on the screen. So here you are at a World Cup final, and suddenly a group of people storm onto the field. That should be kind of a scary experience, right? I mean, there could be a lot of things going through your head. Are these terrorists? Do they have weapons? Are they out to harm me? And yeah, you can make the argument that it's women storming the field, so it's not as threatening. But the whole thing is pretty bizarre. I mean, if you're an athlete, you're probably going to want to turn away and jog the other direction. Well, not only does Mbappe welcome them, but he shares a double high five with one of them. I guess you call it a high 10. I don't know, but if you do call it a high 10, that fits because he's wearing number 10, but that's not even what's important here. What's important is that Mbappe is the youngest player on the team. He scored the final goal for France. Mbappe is 19 years old. And here we are talking about feminism summing to 219. This game being played 219 days before 2/19/2019. But not only is he 19 years old, But in Gematria, Mbappe equals 109. In numerology, the 0 in the result of the word is ignored. So here we have another 19. 19-year-old guy with 19 Gematria participating in this 219 ritual. So the group is called Pussy Riot. The word pussy in the reduction method equals 19. If you saw my last video talking about the Trump-Putin summit occurring exactly 100 years after the Romanov family was executed, pussy also equals 100. I don't know if that's related. But what's really significant is the 19 in reduction. Pussy Riot plays punk rock. Punk equals 19 in the reverse reduction method. These reduction methods are based on the ordinal ciphers. You simply reduce every double-digit number to a single digit by adding the digits together. And just for the record, punk rock equals 109, just like Mbappe. And again, this is all about the number 19. So if you were watching the game, you may have noticed that this happened during the 52nd minute of the game. The word feminism also has gematria of 52, using single reduction with the S exception. This is basically full reduction, but S only reduced once, so it's worth 10 instead of 1. And 10, of course, like we said, the number that Mbappe wears. So feminism equaling 219. Let's talk for a second about the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution. So here we're talking about the 19th Amendment. The word female in Jewish gematria equals 67. 67 is the 19th prime number. This 19th Amendment gave women the right to vote, and it was initially passed by Congress in the year 1919. So this is where it says, yes, 1919, Congress passed it and submitted it to the states for ratification, which took another year. So the 19th Amendment in 1919, female summing to the 19th prime number, feminism equaling 219. I also want to point out punk rock band, which is what Pussy Riot is, sums to 670, a lot like female. With all exceptions, feminist also equals 67. And here we're talking about a game in which France won the World Cup. France World Cup, also 219 in the reverse order. And I just realized France World Cup 12-12 English extended. This is the same day that Vladimir Putin is meeting up with Donald Trump for the first time, 12-12. And Vladimir Putin is 24,024 days old, which is 12 times 12, like 24, 24, 12 times 2, I should say. Not to get sidetracked, but I wish I had that for my last video. So I hope that this is kind of undeniable, that there's something other than just a soccer game going on here. And if you saw some of my videos from yesterday, I made a video talking about the rigged World Cup final, and a lot of it had to do with the number 19. So in something called Chaldean numerology, which I unfortunately can't sit here and teach you too much about, all I know is the order in which it is, but this is something that's observed by groups of people who are participating in this gematria practice. So in this method, Croatia equals 19. In the alphabetic order, Croatia equals 67. And again, 67, the gematria of female, 67, the 19th prime number. And not only that, but Croatia also sums to 244 in Jewish gematria, which is the same as the word 19, 244. In the alphabetic order, 19 equals 86. The man of the match in the World Cup was named Antoine Griezmann. His name sums to 86 in reduction, and he was 8 months, 6 days before his birthday. Let's just show you this here. Antoine Griezmann named man of the match. Born on March 21st. So measuring to his next birthday, there you have it. 8 months, 6 days. His name summing to 86, like the number 19. This entire game centered around the number 19. And shout out again to Casey Jones Astrology, who I have linked below. What Bobby noticed is that, 219, right? 219 days away. The moon will actually be in almost the exact same spot in the sky in that date. It'll be 8 lunar phases from now. And, 8 sidereal months, I should say, to be more specific. But what's funny is that the moon will be passing through Regulus, or passing over Regulus. It happened during the World Cup game, and then it's going to happen again on 2/19/2019. And the star Regulus equals 86 in the reverse order. So the astrology stuff, when you start talking about the gematria of stars lining up with what we're seeing on the pitch, that's where things get pretty trippy to me. So one of the last things I want to mention on this stream, I'm going to jump in the chat. If you have any questions, get them out now, because I'm going to do the end of this video and then check the chat here and answer them before I cut the stream. So let's look at Kylian Mbappe, the French player, the phenom, who's only 19 years old. He was born just a few months after the French won their first World Cup back in the year 1998. So Mbappe was born on December 20th, 1998. So on the date of the game, Mbappe was exactly 1,021 weeks old. The number 1,021. And in Jewish gematria, woman equals 1,021. And here he is giving a double high five to a woman fan who ran onto the field. Also, as regards to the word feminist, let's see, Francis Bacon. I don't know my own keyboard shortcuts. Oh boy. What's the shortcut for Francis Bacon? EBA. Why did I make it that? So look at this. We saw how woman equals 1,021. The word feminist has triple gematria of 121. That's in the reverse alphabetic order. That's also in Francis Bacon, where capital letters are taken into account. And then it's also in the KFW Kabbalah cipher, the secondary Kabbalah. And so of all people on the pitch to be sharing this high five, it had to be a guy who was exactly 1,021 weeks old. So I got one question that I saw at the end here is, why do they rig matches? And, I kind of wish they would just let him play out, right? Like, what's the harm in letting guys go out on the pitch and just play a damn game and see who wins? There's a lot of ritual involved, and this topic gets pretty deep. I believe there's some sort of attempt at spiritual enlightenment going on. Like, they rig these things out by the numbers, and by all these people who are watching, they're giving that extra power. They're giving extra power to this ritual. And, yeah, I mean, another way to look at it, too, is that they're ensuring the outcome that they want. So a country like France, which would benefit more economically by a World Cup victory, is more likely to win than a nation of Croatia, which only has a few million people. There's really a number of reasons that they do this. But again, these are followers and practitioners of something called the Kabbalah. And this whole practice of gematria numerology is rooted in the Kabbalah. And essentially, it's an ancient way of discovering and unraveling light, enlightenment. So I think there's just some sort of magic going on behind this as well, I personally, part of the reason I'm doing this work is to dispel the magic that they're attempting. Because if everybody's aware of what's going on and what these people are doing and how they're setting things up by the numbers, then nobody's going to invest any emotion into it. And it's the emotion, I think, that drives this collected consciousness that we experience as reality. There's a lot of people who say that if you can change the overall consciousness of humanity and move that in the right direction, then things around it will start to change. To me, that sounds kind of new agey, the whole idea that things can change just by thinking about it. But thought does have some power, and we have to start somewhere. I think as long as these guys are running games, you're not going to get people to stop watching the World Cup, but, we can start to at least infiltrate. I don't want to say infiltrate, but these news organizations that are lying to us every day, that's where, we really need to start correcting the information that people get. The Kabbalah is not a faith. Let me spell it out here. The word Kabbalah, it's not really a religion or a faith necessarily. The way I kind of describe it to people is that it's more like the study of the scientific theory behind spirituality, right? Because, they give us all these religions because they know that people have an innate quest for God, right? We all kind of have this natural wonder about what else is going on. We all feel part of something greater, but we're not sure what that is. So they give us all these religions. They tell us we have to go to church and listen to a pastor or confess to a priest in a booth in order to get our sins atoned. Actually, all that power, that connection to God is within us. They're lying to us about having to go through another person. So they've kind of bastardized this idea that we have of spirituality naturally with religion. Now, when you talk about the Kabbalah, they're saying, okay, look, there is a God, it exists, but there's no backstory. We're not going to talk to you about a crucifixion, about a virgin birth, none of that stuff. We're just going to talk about how God operates, because this is all based on the golden rule, right? Treat others as you would like to be treated. The golden rule, kind of similar to karma, and the idea that what you put out into the world is what you get back. And if you pay attention, which can be done through the Kabbalah, you start to see that there's some sort of code, there's some sort of rhythm to things happening back at you, if that makes any sense. You put good out into the world, and if it's true that good will come back, well, there must be some sort of code by which that operates. And I feel like something like Gematria, the number of days before your birthday, things like that, it's also a window into some organic code that we're all experiencing, because it's not just people rigging things up with these numbers. It's if you decode your own life, you find that things in your own life will happen by the numbers. For instance, when I launched my website, it was just after midnight. And when I measured to my birthday, I found it was 137 days before my birthday. And what's funny about that is that in Gematria, webmaster equals 137, right? And 137, the 33rd prime number, 33, the master teacher number, the word teacher summing to 33. I have birth numerology of 33. I'm also currently 33 years old, but I didn't start it when I was. So there's something going on. That movie The Matrix, where it shows you how the walls are just kind of computer coding, right? There's sort of something to it. We're in a construct, so to speak. So when we're talking about the Kabbalah, it's not a religion, it's not a faith, it's a way in which to unravel what lies underneath this reality. And a lot of what I teach on this has to do with the moon, right? The numerology of the moon, the cycles of the moon. I don't find anything to be more significant to time and the measurements of time than the moon. Saturn technically is the keeper of time, but the moon is the closest celestial body, the most, it's the largest thing in the sky that we can look at. And you find that in the Kabbalah, the moon, which is said to project reality, think about how the moon equals 90 and 99. That's the same as the word reality, 90 and 99. And in the Kabbalah, the moon is represented by Yesod. And Yesod is the first sphere that sits above Malkuth, which is the material world that we're experiencing. So that, again, that's what this is rooted in. They've given us all these religions, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, to distract us from the real truth about this world, because the less we know, the easier it is for them to harness that power over us. That's just my description based on my experience, based on kind of like what I've learned through this. I'm not a studier of the Kabbalah. I've read a lot about it. But I don't, I can't break down all the spheres and explain to you what everything's about. But I have enough of an understanding to see sort of what's going on and what it's pointing to. Everyone's path to enlightenment is different. And mine, uses the Kabbalah in a sense and uses the philosophies of the Kabbalah. But I'm not like necessarily a follower or practitioner of it, if that makes any sense. I just find that there's a lot more truth to that than what I've seen in the stories of the Bible. Another thing I'll leave you guys with in regards to the organic matrix is that, we're always seeing these people die by the Jesus crucifixion code. And on my channel, I've always claimed that these people are getting murdered. And currently, that's my belief, is that that's what's happening, right? I mean, these people sign on the dotted line and they put their lives in the hands of others. I think that's what's going on. But there's a part of me, because I've also seen people in my own life die by the numbers as well, there's a part of me that wonders if this study of the organic matrix, of numerology, is so advanced, even by the ancients, that they actually coded it into the Bible, disguised as the story about Jesus Christ. But, through the numbers and through certain codes, they're actually explaining this code of life and death to us. It's just a thought. It's just a theory. I mean, just something that goes in my head every once in a while. So, yeah, you can check out Marty Leeds if you want, but you're not going to learn a whole lot. I mean, a couple of things that he shows are interesting, but there's a lot of mud in the videos, I think. And, it's strange. He just got his channel shut down because he made a video talking about Jewish people. And, yes, this is a Jewish practice. I don't talk too much about the Jews on this channel because I think the people who are doing this aren't really Jewish. I think the people who are described as being Jewish from the Bible are not necessarily the people who claim to be Jews in this day and age. Those are different ethnicities, different backgrounds. Jewish people in relation to the Judaism religion, I think that's very separate from where it used to be. All right, everybody. Sorry if anybody had any more questions. I just wanted to throw the answers to a couple of those. Turned out to be pretty long, but that's okay. I'm going to go live again in another 15, 20 minutes or so. What I'm going to talk about in my next video is another event in WWE. So we talk about how, rigged sports and numerology in professional sports. Well, the same thing is going on in WWE. And of course, WWE is rigged. So, when you can kind of juxtapose what's going on in wrestling numerologically compared to what's going on in professional sports and seeing the similarities, it's like, oh, yeah, shit. It is all rigged by the code. And so we're going to talk about this nasty fall that Kevin Owens took and how it relates to a jump off the top of the cage that Mankind took back in 1998, King of the Ring. All done by the numbers. This will be a fun one. All right, everybody. Thanks for all the love in the chat. Keep seeking and speaking that truth. See ya.